Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So, yesterday at E3, Bethesda and Xbox opened their presentation with a brand new trailer for Starfield that looks very, very cool. So, today we're going to dive into that, pull it apart, and get very, very geeky with it. So, let's jump in, shall we? Okay then, so I am massively hyped for this. I've been looking forward to Starfield since it was first announced, and the initial trailer they put out back in 2018 was very, very cool as well. Obviously, it didn't show us anything of the game, just kind of a tiny bit of flavour, really, but that was very, very cool and definitely got me looking forward to seeing what was next. We've had a few leaks in the meantime as well that they kind of haven't done it justice, really, which is unsurprising because they were really early in development, but as we're about to see, this looks very, very cool. So, before we jump into it, there's a couple of things I wanted to point out. One of the things here is that the Creation Engine 2 has been announced along with this as part of this trailer. So Bethesda have been using the same Creation Engine for a long old time, and many of us have been praying and begging for an overhaul and an upgrade to that, and basically a new engine. And they're touting this as a new engine, so that's very, very cool. How much of that's marketing speak and how much of it is fully accurate, maybe we take with a tiny bit of a pinch of salt, but they have said they've basically overhauled it from the ground upwards, so my guess is they've gone deep into the code and rebuilt it from the ground upwards in a way that will be sufficiently familiar, hopefully, to the developers and the team working on the game, that it would be familiar, not completely the case that they'd have to learn an entirely new engine, but at the same time new enough that it will do what it needs to do, be a massive upgrade, and basically be everything we hope for, we hope. So I suspect it's a middle ground in there somewhere, so very, very cool nonetheless. The other cool thing that, again, we're going to see in this trailer as well is that one of my fears for Bethesda over the last couple of years is that some of their competitors in the open world gaming space, shall we say, have been, graphically at the very least, leaving them behind a little bit. Obviously, graphics aren't everything, but Bethesda were in a little danger in the past of being a little left behind on that and having their games not perform graphically as well, look graphically as nice, so on and so forth. This is probably not a massive surprise to anybody, so I was definitely hoping to see a massive step up in that. And I think this has provided, as we're about to see some alpha footage from the game, so very, very cool. So, I'm going to grab my headphones and let's jump in and take a look at this. So, okay, as we did yesterday with the Fallout trailers, I'm going to do this without the sound, as I can't be entirely sure as to whether or not the music here is copyrighted at the moment, so I do apologise for that. If you want to see the full trailer yourself, of course, I will link it down below, so head over to Bethesda's YouTube and check that one out. I'll also link the stream of their E3 presentation yesterday as well down there if you want to check that out. And we'll also be referring on a couple of occasions to an interview Todd Howard gave to the Washington Post in conjunction with this announcement as well, so I will link that down below if you want to have a little read of that. It's quite cool. There's some interesting stuff in there. There's also an interesting behind the scenes little minute and a half video on there as well that's worth a little look. But that's very, very cool. There's a couple of things in that article I would say take with a tiny pinch of salt. Like, he describes it as like Skyrim in space or something to that effect. I would take that with a massive pinch of salt, in the sense that it's going to be open, it's going to be an RPG, you can design your own character, go where you want, all that sort of stuff, which he has mentioned in that article. Then yeah, I suppose open world kind of RPG. So kind of like Skyrim in that regard, but I suspect in just about every other regard possible, it's going to be nothing like Skyrim. So pinch of salt. Same thing with the Han Solo thing of that there's commented in there as well, of it being like, go off, do your own thing, explore space, and have your own adventures. Yeah, but let's not get overly Star Wars, because it definitely doesn't look anything like that either. So, very cool. Anyway, enough of me rabbiting on, let's get a look at this trailer. So I'll stop right there again. Alpha in-game footage. Awesomeness. Very, very cool. So this is not just captured in-engine, it's not some cinematic, this is actually stuff from the game itself. Obviously, way shy of release yet. It's like 17 months out before we're actually going to get our hands on the game, but very, very cool nonetheless that we're actually seeing footage from the game to make this trailer, which is really cool. And Creation Engine 2, as I mentioned, the shiny new engine. Got a little moon landing reference there in the intro. Very cool. 25 years in the making. excited. So there we go. We have our first shot from the inside of the spaceship, which is called the Frontier, apparently. Very, very cool. There's a lot of stuff I really like in this. So obviously it's futuristic, it's high-tech, but it's high-tech in a realistic kind of way. It's clearly grounded in the technology we have. Certainly a lot of times in the past. Sometimes as a deliberate stylistic choice, sometimes as just predicting more than humanity ever delivered. You see some technology that really doesn't look that much alike to the reality of our technological level, particularly today, if you look at stuff that was developed mid-20th century, for example. But this obviously has a really solid grounding in real-world technology, which is really, really cool. So I could see the construction of the ladder, the cross beams and supports like that. There's loads of rivets we're going to see, stuff like that really look realistic and really bring it to life in a really cool way. Like that, little chips of paint and details like that, very, very cool. So we've got cargo webbing, and all these containers look believably both futuristic and sort of grounded in reality as well, which is really cool. We've got a little first aid kit from the look of this. My guess here is that if we scroll on a few frames, see a tiny little bit better. These are basically cargo pods. This looks like a cargo bay. There's definitely a Firefly vibe about it, in the sense that you're kind of coming into the ship in possibly the back or the front, hard to say, but on the ground level into a cargo bay, and you have to go up ladders and stuff to get into other decks, which is very, very cool. Speaking of, though, I saw a joke in some comments about whether or not we'd actually have ladders in a Bethesda game, given that the engine didn't have a mechanic for it previously, and question answered, I think. So we've got some tanks of some kind here. Probably, that looks like an oxygen tank, I think. Yeah, I think that's this oxygen tank, which is very, very cool. Guessing for unoxygenated planets. But lots and lots of little details. Really, really cool to see the level of detail. And we're going to see some really cool stuff in terms of textures and stuff in a minute as well. Cool little plant in there. This, I think, was mentioned in one of the... I think in the article, the Washington Post one, the plant in the corner that Todd Howard didn't want to say anything about. So maybe there's some significance to this, which is potentially quite cool. We do know you're going to be able to choose your character's background and things like that, and really build your character out in a personalised way, which is what you'd expect from a Bethesda RPG, so that's very, very cool. Definitely looking forward to those details. Here we go. Shadow looks really nice coming up there. Let's take that back a few frames and actually get a first look at the suit. So it looks like a spacesuit, basically, but much more streamlined and compact and manageable than the stuff we have today. But you can see it's still clearly rooted in our technology, which is really cool. Obviously looks like it's seen some hard use and hard wearing. There's a lot of there's a bit of repair, it looks like, going on there. Can we get a slightly clearer shot of that if I jump a few frames around? Not really, no, maybe a little bit, but it does look like we can see some stitching details and seams and things like that, which is all nice. Definitely an upgrade over the level of detail we're seeing in current gen Bethesda games, or last gen, depending on how you want to look at it. So very, very cool there. Take it on a little bit to just here. So we've got some little bits of technology strapped onto the belt there. Again, I suspect these are just detail stuff, but very, very cool nonetheless. There we go. Let's take that to there. See a shot from the outside of the ship through one of the windows. Very, very cool. Got more stuff strapped on in terms of storage, and very realistic, well-grounded in reality, the storage, which I really like. Looking out on the outside of the ship, it's dirty, it's grimy, it's clearly been used a lot, and it's very, very worn, which is really, really cool. Definitely a Firefly Millennium Falcon type vibe there, in the sense that it's a very lived-in sort of ship, which is the idea from the design aesthetic they're going for. Very cool. Little bits of detail. Even the little scuffs and dirt around the windows really, really nice. And the little flare there, the little lens flare is nice as well. It's very, very cool. Looking at the suit, we've got an interesting backpack here that we'll see in a little bit more detail in a second, which is very, very cool. Don't know if that's a kind of personal storage type of backpack, you know, a backpack, or if it's maybe a oxygen tank of some kind, because it's clearly a spacesuit style helmet here, and the whole thing does look like a spacesuit. Some really, really nice designs, some stuff about Constellation. We've got a first peek at the gun as well, which we'll see in more detail in a second. That's very, very cool. Lots of really, really nice stuff to see here. So head over to that ladder there, and we head up inside. So now we're looking a little bit more high-tech, which is really cool. I like this little detail. No magnetized objects on display. Very cool. Don't want to screw up the presumably liquid crystal display, or possibly some kind of liquid metal display, maybe. Should be very, very cool. Pen's a bit odd looking, but nice backpack, some kind of PDA, I'm guessing here. Looks like, anyway. Cup's very standard, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I like the little shines of the light coming around here, some really, really nice details. And again, this is obviously all captured in-game in alpha footage, so obviously it's a bit put together and constructed carefully to get some of these shots, but very, very cool nonetheless. See, this is probably what we can expect to see in the game, which is great. The details on the console here. Apparently, the art team have gone into the level of detail where they know what every Switch is designed to do, which is really, really cool. So everything is functional, even if we don't necessarily get a hold of that ourselves. The intent behind it is considered, so that's really, really cool. We've got like mechanical switches over here. This looks like an adjustable dial, which is cool with a, I'm guessing, a temperature gauge. I'm guessing that's degrees in Fahrenheit, 72 there. That seems about right. Should be very, very cool. Maintain that atmosphere. This looks like atmospheric data or something here. Let's see if we can get a clearer look at this at all. Atmospheric reference or something like that. So data on the atmosphere either inside or outside the ship, which is cool. Obviously, we've got a map on the top from the look of this. Loads of data around the edge, which is nice. But I'm guessing this is a map of the immediate area around where the ship's landed or something like that, so you can plan your journeys out, hopefully. Very, very cool, especially if that were to update as things went on. That'd be really cool if it actually did respond to the area you're in and you interacted with it, and that sort of thing would be really, really nice. Little scuffs and damage around and stuff like that, scratches all over this display here and dirt as well, that's making this place look very lived in. And if I look towards the back, we've got a table here that actually kind of reminds me of the Brotherhood table in Fallout, but obviously far more high-tech and detailed. So we've got some depth of field going on that makes it a bit difficult to see what's going on, but nice little table planning area, maybe somewhere to sit and eat. Very, very cool. Looking a bit more futuristic here with the displays and stuff, almost a little bit of a Star Trek influence there. I know Todd Howard is quite the fan of that sort of thing, so very, very cool. Presumably other members of the team as well. Let's go on a little bit. So there's the next shot. This is very, very cool. The only disappointing thing that I'm getting out of this, really, is that this sandwich looks a little bit odd. Whether that's deliberate or what, I don't know, but everything else looks really, really slick and cool, and this just looks a little bit out of place to my mind. Oh, there we go. I like the flight manual with the sort of ring-bound edge. That's kind of cool. It's very old school. So I'm guessing this is a very old, early issue of it. Maybe the ship that we're going to be flying around in is quite an old one. That would be very, very cool. It would explain why some of this is the case. And I like that some of the data is still kept in like physical books and on paper and stuff like that. It certainly gives it a vibe that's more kind of textured rather than just a PDA or an electronic screen or something. But a travel mug. And there's a little chunks thing, which is apparently a baked potato kind of ration pack from the look of it. Kind of compressed, dried out maybe, or space food. Certainly seems to be the case based on what was said in the Washington Post interview, so that's very, very cool. Not sure what's going on up here. Some kind of samples maybe, or something like that. I don't suppose that's a Tupperware box of cereal, which it could be, I suppose, but very, very cool nonetheless. It'd be interesting to see where that goes. Storage and stuff. No idea what this is. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess it's a thing we've collected in our journeys. Part of maybe a story object, something like that. That would be a very, very cool thing. Definitely looks like some significant piece of technology. I suspect everything in this has been really considered and placed deliberately, so I'm guessing that's something like that, which is very, very cool. Let's move on a little bit. Oh, let's have a look at that gun. It's so cool. So this is really, really nice. Really like the look of this. It's really clean, really well designed. Looks really, really good. Very, very high-tech looking, but also grounded in reality at the same time. Again, along with the rest of the design for this game, which is very, very cool. We've even got a QR code on it. Can't scan it myself, unfortunately, but if anybody has done, I'd love to know what that connects to. Probably the Starfield website. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess, but so we've got some cool stuff on here. We've got safety on warning. That's very, very cool. We've got an ammo counter on the top of the gun. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. I don't know if it's going to be first or third person. I'm hoping first. Bethesda usually do that. But that would be very, very cool. If you could actually see your ammo counter on the gun while you're using it. That would be a very, very cool way of doing it. Although, begs some questions about the positioning of where you're going to hold it. Got some iron sights on it, which makes sense. Looks like some kind of maybe short carbine assault rifle type deal. Looks very, very cool, very, very techy, and I like it a lot. Very, very square, but it works. It's compact, and it makes sense for like inside ships and space stations, and easy to carry around to transport. That sort of thing is very, very cool. So I've got 24 shots in here, 24 rounds left out of 100 rounds, according to that. So that's very, very cool. So 24 loaded in the magazine with 100 rounds spare. Nice. We've got a few more bits of detail on here that are slightly harder to see. Can we move on a bit, maybe see it a bit more clearly? No, it's going to get blurrier. So, something about combat on there. Combat rifle, maybe? It's a combat mode. Maybe this thing does more than just shoot. That would be very, very cool and interesting. Hard to see what's going on up here. But we've got some sort of branding, I'm guessing. Details about maybe the ammo type, something like that. I'm guessing it's manufacturer's marks, that sort of thing. If we take this on a little bit, can't really see a whole lot more detail there, which is unfortunate. We've got a battery level on here, which is interesting. Most of this looks like it's a more projectile style weapon, you know, a standard style gun, rather than a laser weapon or something like that. And the barrel seems to be consistent with that as well. Seems to be. And again with the iron sights as well. But yeah, it's got a battery indicator. Whether or not that's just saying it's just a detail thing to look cool and is just indicating that you know, the heads-up display here will work because there's battery in it, or it might possibly be used for something else, maybe some type of scanner or something might be attached to it, built into your gun. That could make sense. Don't know. Obviously, we've got no idea yet whether or not there's going to be multiple styles of weapons, or you'll have a main weapon that you change the functionality of. Who knows? Could go either way at this point. We really don't know. So we've got a front grip on it and a main grip, as well as the nicely padded shoulder stock. So this could possibly do a few different things. Or maybe I'm reading too much into it. Who knows? Very, very cool. If we go back a bit, you may have guessed I'm using my editing software to do this, so I'll go frame by frame. We see a little bit more detail here. Looks very, very cool. Little creases and smudges of dirt ground into the suit as well. It's obviously seen some hard use. Very, very nice. We'll see it in a bit more detail in a minute as well. It's very, very cool. So let's roll on a little bit. So on to the next thing. Very, very cool. So there's some Easter eggs in here, which are well worth a little look at. Let's pull that back a tiny little bit. We've got, first up, obviously, a really nice spare helmet that looks like it's been shot. Judging by that, I should say. Do not use here. No. I like the fact there's bungee cords in here. That's a really simple solution that is very, very low tech, but makes complete sense in a lot of ways. Especially if you're talking about a ship with some kind of inertial dampening or something like that, which you'd probably have to cover these kind of distances relatively quickly. So you don't need to worry about stuff flying around. Bungee cords would be enough to keep it steady when the ship's moving at, you know, relatively slow speeds. So that's cool. The Constellation Spacefarer's Guide, with a little throwback there to the trailer that we saw, crikey, nearly 3 years ago at this point. 3 years ago, my God. But that's very, very cool to see as well, that little space station. So Constellation is the organisation we're going to be part of. We know that much. It's the last group of space explorers. That's about all we know. It was elaborated on ever so slightly more in the Washington Post article, as I say, which I'll link down below. But we're going to be one of that group, Constellation, exploring the galaxy, it would seem. It'd be interesting to see, as we'll talk about in a minute, sort of how big an area this goes into and how much of our galaxy we get to explore. So that's very cool. So we've got a little bit of detail here. So on the left, before we take a closer look at this, I think we'll get a better look in a moment. What have we got here? Can we go back? Or do we need to go forward? It's very, very hard to see this because it's dark, but sailing alone around the world, Captain Joshua Slocum. So we had a little Fallout Easter egg tossed in there, and a little Omega book. This is, I wonder if this is a little Quake reference as well, with the Omega symbol on the end. It's maybe sort of doubling up a bit there as an Easter egg. but very, very cool. I'm liking a couple of Easter eggs in this shot as well. So if we go forward a little bit. Okay, that's a bit too fast. Let's go back a bit. So property constellation contains Chronomark Life Pack Interlink and then a code. Which is very good. What on earth a Chronomark Life Pack Interlink might be, I don't know. Possibly some piece of survival gear. Chronomark might be that type of technology. It might be the people who made it. Who knows? Life Pack Interlink. Something to do with survival gear is my best guess so far, but very, very cool nonetheless. The packaging's nice. This is a bit more high-tech, which is interesting. Distinctly a Constellation piece of hardware, this. If the name didn't give it away, the design and the logo on it certainly would. Let's move on forward a little bit. Details. There's a bit of tape on here that's been torn off and it's left some glue behind. That is some attention to detail. That's really, really cool. I love to see stuff like this. So, next shot. Very, very cool. Obviously, get more attention to detail. Scuffs on the paintwork. Very, very mass-produced looking plastic here. It looks like it's just been vacuum molded or something and then just mass-produced and put into place, which is cool. Got a little kind of mirror going on. A little peek at the back of a character here, which is nice. Gaffer tape stuck to the wall. God knows what you're using that for, but that's worrying. Some very, very cool stuff on over here. I don't know what this might be referring to. Some scissors and stuff down there. But some of you guys might be able to tell me what this Alyssa thing is referring to. Might be just purely a Starfield thing, or it might be an Easter egg, I can't tell. Loads of little patches that are cool. Ranger, I wonder if that's a Fallout reference as well. Desert Rangers, maybe. Loads of little references to organisations and possibly achievements by the player. Constellations up there, of course. There is spaceship and stuff. That says 10th planet. Interesting. What on earth might that mean? Seeing as it's entirely debatable whether we even get to 9 planets in our solar system, but that's very cool. Got some little pictures of robots here, so I'm hoping this will be indicative of there being a photo mode in the game, because that would be really, really nice. This looks like a game that needs a photo mode. Bethesda, please. Love to have that. And we do know that we're going to have a robot companion. We'll see him in a little bit. And there might be, from the sound of things, certainly via the Washington Post article, a load of other robots to help us out and stuff. For example, we can see Vasco here is apparently a little Easter egg in his name, referring to an old ancient explorer. Oh, ancient by the time this is set. And this looks like it's probably Vasco, our robotic friend. So, Vasco, we're out of tranquility. Do not get decaf. So, this is possibly a reference to the early space missions and landing on the moon in terms of this product, Tranquility, but also clearly a beverage that needs to be caffeinated. So, this is cool. Reminder, Cydonia security does not have a sense of humour. That's definitely a little bit of Han Solo in there. Very cool. The Cydonia is interesting. Cydonia, I'm guessing, is a place we can visit, but there's a lot of history to that name as well. Obviously, there's songs about it, which is interesting. But it's going back to ancient Greece. Cydonia is another name for Athena, so that's a cool little reference. I'm guessing not entirely relevant to this, but there are hints in the interview Todd Howard gave about sort of religious implications. How does religion fit into the fact that people are exploring space now? Very cool. The other thing is Cydonia is also an area on Mars. It's like the face of Mars. It's an area that looks like a face on the surface of Mars. So it could be a reference to a place on Mars that we can visit. That would be, seems kind of possible, likely even. That would be very, very cool. And it would fit Cydonia going in there. Or it could be somewhere else entirely. I mean, there's an asteroid in the asteroid belt between Earth and Mars called Cydonia. There's a load of numbers after the name, but nonetheless, it could be a reference to that. Actually, I think there are 11s in the name of that asteroid. Don't necessarily quote me on that one, but I think there are. In which case, given the launch date, who knows if that's a reference? Could even be. That would be a cool thing. Tons of little details hidden in. So as we go on... So we've got... Oh, that was a little too far. Best settings. ENG, and then we've got some settings there. Gravity, maybe? Possibly some atmospheric stuff. Interesting. Upgrade reactors. Thinking about upgrading the ship. This could well mean that we can upgrade the ship. Rumor has it that the ship will be upgradable and there'll be a certain amount of making it your base. There's also rumors that we'll be base building out and out as a full concept in the game. Obviously, we don't know at this stage. It's not been revealed. Can't be entirely sure, but that would be very, very cool if it was a thing. But it has been implied that we'll be upgrading the ship by Bethesda, so a little upgrade reactor thing there is probably a reference to that, which is very, very cool. So let's move on a little bit further. So, not sure what this is, but let's just go back and double check the dialogue here a second. So, what you found, it is the key to unlocking everything, the voiceover says. And again, I'm sorry I can't actually play that back for you because there's music behind it, but what you found is the key to unlocking everything. This does look like some kind of maybe alien device. Looks very, very cool. Certainly looks like it might be. There's some notes on here that something about a chamber, I think, there. Something about rough steps and something ships, maybe? Who knows? And it looks like it's something that's mechanical because we've got rotating rings. So I'm guessing maybe that device that was on the table earlier. Scroll back to see if we can find it again. There we go. This thing here, maybe. That could be maybe something that we have to put in this device that has been discovered. That would be very, very cool. Who knows? It looks like this goes into something. So, Ooh, there was a thing there I want to go back to. It was like, the voiceover says it's surprising not that the field of stars is so vast, but that we have measured it. That implies that the potential space that we are that we could be exploring and the breadth of the distance potentially between the planets and systems we'll be going to could be quite large. There's been some sort of hints that most of the galaxy has been explored and that Constellation are the last group of explorers, so how much there is to explore or why the unexplored areas are unexplored is a bit of an open question at this point. So maybe that's over guessing a little bit because the game's supposed to be set about 300 years or so into our future. And as much as we might get out into space in that time, I very much doubt we'll be even close to any significant amount of galactic exploration by then. There are something in the order of 400 billion stars in our galaxy alone, so I think it's going to take a bit more than 300 years to explore them, even if humanity's population continues to expand. So let's jump back on a little bit to the next section. Okay, so really, really cool shot into the cockpit and looking out the front here. I think we enter the ship underneath the cockpit and head to the back and then sort of turn around and go back forward again. So here we go. That's, again, the cockpit. It's a little bit blurry, looking more out into the distance here. See the surface of the world, which looks pretty gorgeous for a pre-alpha footage. That's a nice start. Obviously, some of the worlds are going to be more desolate than others. This looks more like a moon than anything else in some ways. So that's about what we'd expect. Maybe we'll get some shots of more interesting, more detailed planets in the future, closer to launch, but still, it looks nice. The lighting looks epic and very much captures the vibe that they were showing back in 2018, and yeah, really sets a mood there. I like that a lot. So some pre-flight checks, and I pan out through the front. Oh, look at that. That is so nice. So yeah, definitely some kind of moon here. There doesn't appear to be a great deal of atmosphere. The sun's very, very bright over there, and there's some kind of base. So who knows what that's going to be like, but very, very cool. The ship looks... See what I'm saying about the Firefly vibes? Definitely. Definitely, it's small, compact, mighty big engines on the back. Those legs look interesting. Landing gear, and then we've got presumably VTOL-type engines to get us off the ground. Wonder what this is. Some kind of radar array, maybe? I love the details on the side. That's very, very kind of grounded in our universe as well, as are most of the engine designs. Sort of our modern level of technology, but taken forward. It's very, very cool. They've really considered this well, I think. It looks great. Awesome. And the landing struts look very technological, but there's almost an organic style to them, actually, which is cool. And yeah, this does look like the surface of the moon, but look at the detail. And this is pre-alpha, remember, as well, or alpha, one or the other. Is it pre-alpha or alpha? Alpha in-game footage. Okay, so very, very early still, anyway. Where are we? Still back at about halfway through yet. But very, very cool. We see a little... Oh, let's go back a little bit. See our robot friend, who is probably Vasco, off in the distance here, approaching the ship. Very, very nice. Is this a gun of some kind? Maybe some kind of space defense for the station or outpost here? That would be very, very cool. The idea there might be pirates out there, or unpleasant aggressors, maybe even aliens, who knows? There's the question of whether or not we're alone in the universe is the obvious one to ask in a sci-fi space game, and obviously Bethesda are asking it, so who knows? But this could be some kind of scientific instrument, I suppose, some kind of data gathering array that's pointed towards the sun. So it could be something like that, or it could actually be some, honking get space gun. That would be very, very cool. The idea that the outpost might get attacked and have to defend itself from incoming ships would be interesting. Hell, can you imagine if there was space combat in this and you got to actually fight in your ship? Ooh, that would be so cool. Potentially very, very cool. Let's go on a little bit further. Oh, that is so nice. The technology in this cockpit is so familiar, futuristic, which is really, really nicely done. The design style they're referring to, or their lead artist is referring to it as NASA punk, which is interesting. I think maybe that's a tiny stretch, but it's definitely, again, the grounding in reality. You're starting to see, I don't know how well this is going to come through on the video, by the way, for which I apologise. Do go and check out the trailer, link down below for you. But the detail in this is great, and we'll see a bit more, again, going forward, but yeah, it's not come out too clearly in this particular copy of the trailer. But the level of detail in the texture of the suit is really, really... It's there, it's really cool, it's really nice. And we've got scratches, scuffs, and dirt all around here, ground into the gaps and stuff. So this has clearly seen some hard use, which is really cool. And there you got hoses. The way the seat moves there is just... Ooh, so smooth, and I like it. That really works. It looks like a well-designed ship, but again, the technology is a believable extension of our own, which is really, really nice, and a little bit retro at the same time, which is, I guess, a nod to the 70s, 80s, early Star Wars, early Star Trek, things like that, whilst at the same time being a kind of believability thing, which is cool. Bits of colour and blue and stuff. I wonder if we can customise the colour of our cockpit. Be an interesting thought. I love the way these things just move, and they're so mechanical as well. It's really, really bringing me in, that. And heads-up display. I said before that all the switches and all the displays and everything, the art team know what they do and what they're for, which is really, really sweet. And yeah, very, very excited for that. The fact that everything is going to have a function, again, whether or not we get deep into it as players is a different thing, but it means that every little thing should make sense in its setting and stuff, which is always important and very, very cool. It's kind of Bethesda's MO to do that, but very, very cool. Like little sort of grippy wheel, you tighten something up there, presumably the position of the headrest. Like the details, ooh, so cool. Wish we could see a little bit more of the text on the screen and have a better idea of what... That's a bit too far. Let's go back a little. What some of this stuff might actually be, but yeah, that's not helping, is it? Oh well. Little adjustments like that, everything's so... Oh, it also reminds me of my setup a tiny little bit, only a little bit more compact and like you can see over it. So yeah, love that. Little Nova Galactic. I'm guessing that is the company that made the ship. You can see on there. Again, link down below if you want to get a closer look at these. It's a 4K trailer, I think, so worth a look if you have the screen for it. Little stickers, details of the companies that made this stuff, and like electrical information, all that safety stuff that they put on the back of electrical devices. Even the wires and plugging in, that actually almost looks like it would be dated today. The old what are they called? The old cables we used to go plug into the back of monitors anyway, before HDMI was a thing. But very, very cool. Ooh, look at this, and the way the light shines off everything. God, I hope they can pull this off in the game. So we start to see a little bit better now. Again, I apologise for the fact the resolution is not as fantastic as I'd like it to be, but you'd see it really in the YouTube video Bethesda have uploaded. But you start to see little dimples of texture in the fabrics and stuff like that on here. And even the fingertips are different, and layering inside is really, really nice. And I hate to do this, but the padding on the crotch and the knees. Let's talk about the knee pads, not the crotch pads. That's very, very cool as well. Yeah. Oh, ooh, this gets me so excited. There's so much detail. There's a boost, engine boost. So this looks like engine controls. Maybe a little reference to an Xbox controller there. Who knows? Gravity controls. Problem porting. Some settings there. Maybe to switch from landing to some other mode. Throttle sensitivity. Look at that. Clear inputs. This looks very, very cool. A lot of this looks to be actual mechanical switches as well. I don't know whether these displays are in any way touchscreen or not, or everything's purely mechanical, but there's going to be something deeply satisfying about that. Very, very cool. So, next one, we've got, yeah, what did we say? Nova something? Let's go back a little bit where we can see it a bit more clearly. Nova Galactic, from the look of that. Yeah. So, again, I'm guessing that's maybe a different division doing that, because that looks like an H. So, some details on life support, gravity, and power, I'm guessing, from the look of this. Very, very cool. Whether or not this will actually be functional, I'm guessing it probably won't be adjusting it. It'll just be a visual display, but cool nonetheless. This looks like a circuit breaker, which is mental. I assume it's maybe a bit more complex than that, but maybe we'll have to do some repairs on the ship. Something will get damaged. Who knows? We might have to get some involvement with this. But I suspect that's a level of mechanical involvement we probably won't see. But nonetheless, very, very cool. It's details and it brings the ship to life, which is cool. Actually, this actually looks comparatively clean compared to a lot of the other stuff. Especially the stuff around it looks way more beaten up and scuffed. But this is very, very clean and well maintained. So maybe it's something new. Another shot from the back, very narrow single-person cockpit. You've got 4 seats in the back around the table, but the thing is geared around a single pilot from the look of it. So, I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Maybe you can have meetings in there, discuss stuff with people you meet on your journeys, I don't know. But it's interesting. So here we've got an exposure pack, which I'm guessing is something you can grab in the event that the canopy gets damaged. When you're in space, for example, that will be a handy thing to have, but we're also wearing a spacesuit, so... Very, very cool. Got some other details there. This whole chair looks amazing, by the way. Right, that is awesome. And I think we're looking through some lower portholes here, lower windows at the ground. Just hard to tell, but yeah, the way it's moving, I'm pretty sure that is. And we've got another little shot at Vasco, I think, our robot friend here anyway. Looking through the windows. So cool. Even the little sort of dust and haze is... I think a thing designed to sort of emphasize the fact that we don't know that much about the game, really. But very, very cool, and it gets that the mood, sets the mood really well. There we go. I wonder if we'll be able to upgrade and modify our robot friends that it seems we're going to have in this game, which would be very, very cool. So, something I did miss. You can sort of see a bit here. The ship's controls are like a couple of... I'm guessing is a throttle. Maybe this 2 of some kind. Looks like 2 throttles. Not sure why you'd have 2, but... maybe 1 for forward and backwards, 1 for the vertical thrusters. Go back a little bit. There we go. See that a little bit more there. And it's not the clearest. Oh, wait. There we go. You can kind of see the joystick there as well. That's very, very cool. I really would like to actually be properly manually flying the ship in this game. That would be epic. Be very, very cool. Little controls on there as well. Ooh, details! Where were we? Yeah, a little bit more pre-flight checks. Actually, if I remember rightly... yeah, pre-flight check override. Naughty, naughty. It'd be kind of cool if we had to do pre-flight checks before we took off, but at the same time that could also get dull and monotonous, so hopefully they don't overdo it. Speaking of textures again, we'll start at the top and work down. The scuffs on the metal look really, really cool. It's really nice. Graphically speaking, if they can bring this into the game, I hope. As I say, it's in-game footage, so hopefully they can pull it off. That would be very, very cool. The details on the fabric here, now we get a bit closer, maybe not quite as detailed as I'd like, but let's be realistic, we're not going to see it that closely anyway, and if they have to render the threads in that level of detail, we're never going to get a frame rate. So that's fine. But it looks cool, it's textured, it's nice. The threads in this Constellation patch are gorgeous. Like, that looks really, really nice. The level of detail on that is very cool. I suspect Constellation is going to be very, very significant to us, and not just as part of this organisation that happens to be out there. I suspect they're going to be really rooted in the story and the character's experience, so that could be very, very cool. This looks so good. Looks almost like it might be a tilts kind of gyroscope type deal, but digital. So back outside, look at this. We've got that really, really fancy looking rendering of the steam and stuff coming out of the ship here. Lots of riveted steel and very, very realistic, grounded in reality looking technology here, which I'm absolutely loving. Little details like safety stickers, and even the print on the side of it harks back to a lot of old school sci-fi as well, which is really, really nice. So yeah, massively hyped about this. This looks so cool. And there's our little robotic friend in the bottom again. Dirt and grime and stuff. And in other games, I'm thinking more about Elite Dangerous at the minute. There's little references to damage that happens to the paint job in your ship when you're flying around. Obviously, don't want to overly compare this to that because they're going to be vastly different. But the fact that both games have thought about damage to the paint and the dirt and stuff that's picked up is really, really nice. Danger warnings on the side there. Very cool. Don't know what this might do. Give us some kind of access. Very, very cool. There we go. Oh, let's go back a bit. So there's the front end of the ship. It looks like it's taken a battering as well. Look at that scoring. Very, very cool. And an emergency hatch of some kind, maybe? Nice. But Vasco, I'm guessing. At least a robot, anyway. It looks very, very cool. Very basic. Believable based on the level of robotic technology that we have at the moment. I know there's some companies out there trying to make somewhat lifelike androids, and mostly for really creepy reasons. But this is more likely to be a thing that we see. It's definitely very, very cool. I'm going to leave the mouse alone a second so that we can actually see without the controls over it. But yeah, simple, basic. I'm getting some kind of... I imagine there'll be a bit of an R2-D2 vibe about it, in the sense that it probably won't communicate that clearly. But like, the hands look really cool, mechanical hands on it. Maybe some kind of ship's engineer as a robot, something like that would be cool. Definitely... I hope we can gear it out and, yeah, basically modify the robot stuff. Whether or not it's going to be companion, who knows? Maybe we'll be able to take our robotic companion with us and have some backup on our adventures. That might be cool. Also, look at that Starfield. It's absolutely gorgeous. Dead simple, of course, but like the tonal changes and the colours look really nice as well, and the lighting is definitely wonderful. Details about the rocks and stuff. Again, the level of detail is kind of lost a little bit by this particular clip, but you can really see it on YouTube in the high-res stuff, so very cool. We've got the flight number of the ship, I'm guessing. NG-1350. I wonder if there's a reference to that. Some kind of significance, either in-game or in real world. Oh, ventilation subunits. Interesting, very cool. And there's that. There we go. Let's go back to that again. It's the entrance to the ship kind of coming up. A little more confirmation if we needed it that the robot's coming with us. Details on those landing struts. Very cool. And all the steam and stuff is just really adds to the epic vibe, and the dirt and the grime there. And yeah, this is also in surprisingly good condition despite its chip paint and wornness. It reflects the light a lot. Surprisingly clean. I'm wondering if it's just because of the direction of the sun and it's just reflecting the light there, but very, very cool. Rust, all sorts of stuff going on. Very, very epic. Yeah, hype for this. I promised you nerdy, didn't I? And loads of dirt and scuffs on the bottom of it as well. The bottom of the ship held off the ground by the landing gear. Nice. That's the engines, looking good. Definitely old school NASA references in the engines go and stuff like that in the dialogue here. So strongly recommend going back and listening to that dialogue because that's very interesting. Unfortunately, I can't play it back for you just on courtesy of the music. I might be fine, but I can't risk it, you know. Ooh, that looks so much like an old Saturn V rocket or a spaceship. Space. What's the word? Why the hell's space shuttle? There we go. Crikey, you think I'd remember that? Yes, space shuttle ignition. It looks a lot like that, which is very, very cool. And yeah, again with the keeping up with the believable technology. So good. Just the details, and I don't imagine we'll see vast numbers of shots like this. Who knows? When we're taking off, you might get a little cinematic that looks like this. But very cool. Again, close up on the helmet there, looking really, really nice. Suitably sci-fi, but also not over the top. Details, clearly well worn. We get our first proper peek at the character's face here, which is cool. So we do know that you're going to be able to customize your character a lot, choose the background. I think you'll be able to do full character creation as per usual for a Bethesda game. It would be normal to assume that, reasonable to assume that, but we'll have to hold up on final confirmation, but it seems to be the case. Look at the quality of that skin. The eyes are a bit funky, but then again, anytime you get close up on an eyeball, as I said in yesterday's video on the Fallout trailers, it does get a bit funky when you get close up to eyeballs. Like the detail of the pores and everything like that. As I said at the start, I had concerns about Bethesda getting left behind graphically, and if they keep this up, my fears will be allayed, shall we say. Looks really cool. The reflections on the front of the visor there are really, really cool. Very, very nice. And there we go. I like the way they did that, dropping the release date on the console there. Very, very cool. Very sensible. I approve. So, 11th of November next year. About when I expected. Like, November 22 was going to be my guess, and the 11th is pretty consistent with their usual end-of-year release time for BGS. So, very, very cool. Definitely a lot of work still to go on it, I'm sure, between now and then. Very, very much looking forward to getting my hands on this. The next 17 months is going to be a long wait. But very, very cool. Nice way of revealing it, that. There we go. And the logo. So excited for this. And the website, should you want to go and check that out. Obviously, I think it'll link back to Bethesda.net, which certainly looks like it will. But if you go to Fallout.com, that links back to Bethesda.net. Or the Fallout page is off. So all that's obviously up on their website already. So if you want to go and see what they're posting on there and stuff, well worth a look as well. But, yeah. Hype. I really like this. So the art style is gorgeous. It looks wonderful. The graphics looking fantastic. So this is alpha in-game footage, with a small pinch of salt taken there, I think, as well, because some of these are obviously very stylized shots and carefully constructed. But hopefully something very close to this will be achieved in the final version, I hope. Obviously Bethesda really did need to up the graphics game, and it looks cautiously optimistically like that's the case. A new engine, mostly new engine. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, say they rebuilt it from the ground up, so it's new. But yeah, that's a promising thing as well. Very, very cool as well. We know that's going to be the biggest upgrade either way that Bethesda's engine technology has had in a very, very long time. So that's really cool. Obviously needed it for this as well to keep up with modern technology and the ambition of Starfield as well. So very, very cool. Lots of very, very interesting stuff. I love the level of detail. The little Easter eggs are gorgeous as well. Finding something in terms of the story. You found something out there in space, and looks like it's going to be involved in the story. Who knows what this might be? It looks like it might be some kind of alien technology, whether from a current or past civilization. I'm guessing a civilization that's disappeared, maybe. It's a common sci-fi trope, that one, but it works well, which is why it's common. So that could be very, very cool. Lots of very, very gorgeous stuff. Some stunning, stunning shots in the game there. Stuff that I'm really looking forward to. Really hope we can do some customization, both on the ship, on our gear and suit, and on robots as well. Don't know how I feel about whether or not it'll be a companion who joins us for combat or whatever else. Obviously, by dint of the fact there's a gun in there, we can see there's going to be on-foot combat as well, which we kind of assume. But obviously that's basically confirmed by the gun there. Interested to see that whole battery thing on it, though. See whether or not that's going to mean that maybe there's more functionality to the gun, or maybe you modify it to do other things. Maybe it'd be more than just a gun. That would be potentially quite cool as well. So lots and lots of cool stuff, lots and lots of detail. I love the style. The lighting looks gorgeous. The textures look wonderful. And bajillions more questions to ask and be answered over the next 18 months, and then when the game finally launches in November of next year. So huge hype for that. Cannot wait to sink my teeth into that. It's going to be so cool. But we are now at a very, very long video, so if you've stuck this out, huge high five to you. Very, very gratified. Do let me know in the comments. I will be very appreciative. So massive thanks. If you have made it this far, I hope you've hit the subscribe button. So very much appreciate. If you haven't, please do go ahead and do that. Likes are always hugely appreciated as well, and shares if you think anybody else would like to nerd out over this. Down below in the description, along with all the links I mentioned previously, you can find links to the merch store, a channel memberships button, and of course my social media links as well. If you want to support the channel in that way or follow me over there, it's massively appreciated. And of course, we will be continuing on with our Fallout 76 streams, our Mass Effect 2 streams, and very much looking forward to when the time eventually comes, some 17 months from now, streaming Starfield and hopefully making a ton of content on this game, because I am way hyped for it. So massive thank you very much everybody who have made it this far. Thank you to everybody who's watched at all, to be fair. I always appreciate it. It means the world to me. So massive thanks for that. But for now, do hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.